8-year assault on your Second Amendment freedoms has come to a crashing end. I like taking the guns early. Take the guns first, go through due process second.
Well, I say go fuck yourself. Then ask a question, could I kill a man? I would enjoy myself. You can't disguise evil eyes that burn over my head. This devil man and his master plan. We feel so misled, so I say, rise up, take all back. Rise up, take it all back. Rise up. Hope you all understand. We've got to take it all back again.
These people are not going to take it any longer. We will never give up. We will never concede. Our country has had enough. We will not take it anymore. But you have to go home now. We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special. But go home and go home in peace. The demonstrators who infiltrated the Capitol have defiled the seat of American democracy. You do not represent our country. And to those who broke the law, you will pay.
All right. That should have done it. Hopefully it's not a squeaky voice. Just double check. No, it's good. It's good. All right, cool. What's up, everybody? How y'all doing? There's a little bit of a delay on my end, and apparently my audio turned itself off. Usually that stays on. I don't usually have to mess with it. So I didn't even think about checking that before we started the stream today. And that's why you couldn't hear me at first. Broken Patriots in the house. I'm so glad that you got home safely. That's good news. And thank you for being here. Yeah, we're on the main channel for now. Yesterday was a virtual landmine of topics and stories. I got a little heat from it. It's all right. It is what it is. But you know what? If YouTube wants me gone, I'm not going to leave myself. They'll have to get rid of me themselves. And so I do what I can to stay here as long as possible, no matter how many people I got watching. As I said, if I wanted people watching, if I wanted to get remonetized, if I wanted to make money on this again, because I used to, way back in the day, like 2008, 2009, I was making $600 a month on this channel. And even when I switched over to guns, I had quite a bit of a hit in financially, but I was still making like $100 a month, which is ammo money, right? It's not bad. And then it became like $100 every 3 months, right before they demonetized me. And I put in for remonetization on March 18th. So typically only takes 1 month to hear back from them. I have still not heard back from them. And when I do, I'm sure now, especially with another strike on my channel, I'm probably not going to get it. However, I have been recording some videos of us cooking. We did sweet pickled garlic, or not, it's not garlic, sweet pickled cauliflower. We did, forget what the other recipe we did. I know, blueberry jam. We did the blueberry jam, and how to can it. And then also our first dry aged steak that we've ever eaten, which, spoiler alert, didn't taste a whole lot different than a regular steak. It was just extra tender, which was kind of good. So what I want to do is I'm going to actually dry age my own steak, and in a couple weeks maybe I'll get some of that. And I'm also going to be looking at getting some things so I can cook sous vide, which is a really unique way of cooking. It's I'm looking forward to that. That'll be fun. Yep. As far as today, Riddle also working, so she's busy at it. Our financial woes should end, I believe, on the 13th, maybe possibly the 14th. So that's good news for us. We just got to get another 2 weeks, luckily we don't have to buy any food. We're good on food for a good long time. Oh, and for those who didn't know, Riddle was unemployed, so we were supposed to get unemployment, and she'd been fighting that for a long time. I mean, everybody probably knew she was unemployed. I mean, I was beating around the bush on it, but they've been dicking around with her on her unemployment because somebody in Texas stole her identity and tried to get unemployment in Texas. Was unsuccessful doing so, which is good. But she just recently found out that they didn't give her all the questions that she needed to fill out just now. I don't know, how many months? 2 months now? Seems like it's been longer than that. It might not even be 2 months. What's up, Bikes and Bullets? The title of this chat, priceless. Say it ain't so. You mean that the goalpost were moved to prevent Newsom's recall? Raise your hands if you're surprised. Well...
No, to me,
What was it, Riddle?
May 14th was the last day I worked. So.
May 14th, so... month and a half-ish?
Yep.
Well, it's been difficult. Yeah, there's a few stories. That's just the one that kind of grabbed my eye. And that's usually how I title these, is I just... whichever news article gets my eye first. The top one that is on the site that I usually use said Biden receives 4 Pinocchios for false claim about owning cannons. Yeah, because the government gave out cannons. In fact, the cannon that was in Texas where they said come and take it was a government gifted cannon, I believe, we'll probably read that one. Yeah, that'll be our third story. So yeah, things are hopefully going to get better by the 14th. So I'm looking forward to that. Maybe sooner, possibly. So, as our savings has done run out. Yeah. But thank you everybody for being here. I really do appreciate it. Let's get on to it though, huh? California lawmakers change recall rules to help Newsom win. California Republicans accused Democrats of acting unfairly Monday as state lawmakers passed a bill aimed at moving up Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom's recall date. So it's going to make it quicker so that the Republican has, I guess, this is just what I'm gathering from the one little sentence that I read already, is that they're going to be making it so the Republican doesn't have as much time to do campaigning, I guess. The conclusion is inescapable that Gavin Newsom is not playing fair in the recall, and this legislator is his willing accomplice, said Republican Assemblyman Kevin Kiley, who is considered running in the contest. The proposal, now headed to Newsom's desk, you think he's going to sign it, would allow the recall to proceed at least 30 days earlier than it under existing state law. Democrats hope to take advantage of what they view as a favorable condition for Newsom as the state moves on from the worst days of the pandemic and the related restrictions. Democratic Assemblyman Phil Ting acknowledged the bill will ensure that this recall election happens as soon as possible, and said that something the recall supporters should want. Recall organizers collected 1.7 million signatures in support of recalling Newsom, and he'll face an election later this year. Without the recall, he'd face voters in 2022 for a regularly scheduled re-election. Now, I don't know much about all this. If maybe you guys do. If somebody gets recalled, do they then still have to have another election in 2022? Let's say Newsom wins the recall. Does he then have to go up for election again in 2022 is what I'm asking. This marks the second time Democrats are changing the rules in hopes of helping their own. 4 years ago, they added new steps to the recall process as a state senator faced a removal vote. At the time, they hoped to slow things down so the vote would align with the next primary. The changes gave voters who signed the recall petition 30 business days to remove their signatures and set a process for state finance officials and lawmakers to estimate and review election costs. Democrats' proposal would essentially bypass the legislative review process so long as lawmakers set aside money for counties to pay for the cost of the election. The State Department of Finance already sought to cost estimate from counties, and lawmakers plan to approve $215 million to cover the local expense. The bill also gives $35 million to the Secretary of State, and Republican lawmakers question about how it would be spent. They pointed to a controversial $35 million contract the office signed late last year for voter outreach, which a firm linked to President Joe Biden's campaign. The legislation approved Monday says that the money would be spent to support statewide and county costs of the 2021 gubernatorial recall election, but provides no details on whether it could be used to hire an outside firm. Here we go again. You know, this just reeks of partisanship, and we need to stop that, said Senator Jim Nielsen. With no legislative review, Democratic Governor Ellie Conlikis, a Newsom supporter, will be able to set an election date sooner. County clerks have said that they need until at least September 14th to be ready. Those who want to speed things up believe in the longer the wait until voters cast their ballots, the more risk of problems arising for Newsom's recent poll showing Newsom in a strong position to keep his seat. That's amazing. I'm surprised he's in a strong position. What's not clear is who would take his place. The lieutenant governor? Well, there's Republicans wanting to run. You had even, what's the guy that transitioned, that's the Olympian? I don't even remember the name. They were even thinking about running. Republicans said Newsom's party is trying to manipulate It's an attempt to put a thumb on the scale to try to obtain a partisan outcome for one side, said GOP Assemblyman Vince Vaughn. It's a common for lawmakers in states to allow recalls to fiddle with election laws, but it usually happens after the contest is done, not before it, said Joshua Spivak, a recall election expert. And efforts to manipulate things that happen, usually in November, but not this time. Timing doesn't always work, he noted, pointing to California Senator Josh Newsom, who lost the 2018 recall election despite the Democrats' rule changes. So they rule change. Do they rule change every single time? I'd also imagine that Republicans are no better. People in power like to stay in power. Shocker. I guess if they move it up as well, not only does it give the people running against him in the recall a little bit less time to get, their message out, but it would make it a little bit harder to make sure that all the voting machines are up to code, if you know what I mean. That really suggested maybe we don't know what we're doing. You're playing with fire by doing that, said Spivak, who's a senior fellow at the Hugh L. Carey Institute for Government Reform in Wagner College and runs the Recall Elections blog. He speculated the changes could backfire because an earlier election gives Democrats less time to motivate their voters. Republicans were behind the recall effort and gathered more than 1.7 million signatures. They say their voters are energized. Well, they're not just Republicans either. There's a lot of Democrats that signed that bill. A lot of them. California was one of the worst states to be in the lockdown with, in my opinion. I don't know. There's quite a few others. Michigan would have been one of them too. The bill makes other changes sought by county clerks specific to mail-in ballots and vote centers. All counties will be required to mail voters a ballot. If they ask for it or not? Nathan Click, a spokesman for Newman's campaign, didn't respond to multiple requests for comment about whether the campaign had communicated with Democratic lawmakers about the recall timing. So there you go. Apparently they think he's in a good position. If he wasn't in a good position, maybe they would keep it going. Who knows? Bruce, yeah, Bruce. What does he go by? I don't care. Another California news story. California is banning state travel to Florida and 4 other states due to trans prohibitions. Wow. California added 5 more states, including Florida, to the list of places where state-funded travel is banned because of the laws that discriminate against members of the LGBT community, that state attorney general announced on Monday. How do they discriminate? I guess they don't want you to go into a bathroom of your will, or of your choice, I guess. Is that it? Democratic Attorney General Rob Bonta added Florida, Arkansas, Montana, North Dakota, and West Virginia to the list that now has 17 states where the state employee travel is forbidden except under limited circumstances. Well, we should find out that list because we got to boycott those places. Never go there. Make no mistake, we're in the midst of an unprecedented wave of bigotry and discrimination in this country. The state of California is not going to support it, Bonta said. Lawmakers in 2016 banned non-essential travel to states with laws that allegedly discriminate against lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people. The 12 other states on the list are Texas, Alabama, Idaho, Ohio, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, Kentucky, North Carolina, Kansas, Mississippi, and Tennessee. Well, Arizona's not on it. I guess we allow you can go in whatever bathroom you want here, I guess. The 5 states newly added to the list have introduced bills in their legislature this year that prevent so-called transgenders from participating. Oh, here it is. It's not about bathrooms. It's about participating in school sports consistent with their gender identity. Because boys beating up on girls. Biological males beating up on biological girls. It's not nice. It's disgusting in a way. Can you imagine that? If a woman beats on her husband, depending on the husband, not too many people give a shit. But when there's a spouse abuser who beats up on a girl, if you go into a bar and you hit a woman, you're going to get your ass beat. Rightfully so. And having a biological male play women's football or women's whatever is definitely, well, let's not even say it's a contact sport. How about just track and field? Sorry, Sally. I know you trained real hard and all that. You're not going to win. Good luck getting second. Here's another thing. Why isn't there any boycotts of the Olympics? The Olympics is going on right now. Why is nobody talking about the Olympics? Why don't we have transgendered males that are now females on the women's teams in the Olympics? Why is nobody outraged? Nobody's talking about it. I've been watching the Olympics a little bit only because our neighbor that we go visit all the time, she's been watching it. She likes the Olympics. And it just dawned on me, there's no transgendered people. They're not even talking about transgendered people in the Olympics. I know why, but I'm surprised that nobody is speaking out about it. All right. So I'll reread this. The 5 states newly added to the list have introduced bills in their legislatures this year that prevent so-called transgenders from participating in school sports consistent with their gender identity, disallow gender reassignment treatment for minors. Yeah, you should know what you're doing before you do that. That's not something they can easily reverse, especially if you cut your willy off. And allow the discrimination of the LGBT community, Bonta said. Florida, Montana, Arkansas, and West Virginia passed laws that prevent transgendered from participating in school sports consistent with their gender they say they identify with, rather than their biological sex that they actually are. North Dakota signed into law a bill allowing certain publicly funded student organizations to restrict LGBTQ students from joining without losing funding. Oh, that's interesting. I'd like to know more about that one. I think they should be able to join a club. If you have a chess club and there's a trans that wants to play chess, who gives a shit? Arkansas passed the first law in the nation to prohibit physicians from abuse, gender-affirming health care to transgender minors, regardless of the wishes of their parents or whether a physician deems that such care to be medically necessary. These lawmakers would rather demonize trans youth and focus on solving real issues like tackling gun violence. Yes, that's much worse. Beating back this pandemic and rebuilding our economy, Bonta said. Bonta's very opinionated. The state law has exemptions for some trips, such as travel needed to enforce California law and to honor contracts signed before the states were added to the list. Travel to conferences out of state training are examples of trips that can be blocked. It is unclear what California's travel ban will have. Bonta did not have any information about how many state agencies have stopped sending state employees to the states on the list or the financial impact of California travel ban on those states. It's coming. I mean, this might not be the reason it happens, but add another tick to the reason why states are pissed off at each other right now. And when states get really pissed off at each other and are starting to limit travel, well, it's not for like normal people, but state travel, something's coming in this country and it's not going to be good. All right. Biden receives 4 Pinocchios for false claims about owning cannons. Washington Post gave President Joe Biden 4 Pinocchios for falsely claiming that the Second Amendment always barred gun owners from owning certain types of firearms, such as cannons. I knew that as soon as he said it. I was like, that's bullshit. You could have whatever you wanted. Shall not be infringed meant exactly that. When the Gatling gun first came out, you could have one. I think you can still have one. It's not technically a machine gun. But that was the machine gun at the time. During a speech on gun violence last week, Biden said, and I might add, the Second Amendment from the day it was passed, limited the type of people who could own a gun and what type of weapon you could own. You couldn't buy a cannon. Limited the type of people. Well, the only limit on the type of people were minorities, like black people. And it was only in like southern states. So they, when it first was signed into law, of course, history is I was worth more. I was like full human, whereas some people were only like a third human, which I totally disagree with. And then when the Civil War ended and we had the emancipation, the southern states didn't want the freed slaves to own firearms, so they were enacting a whole bunch of laws, all of them Democrats, may I add. And then the NRA came around and said, no, you can't do that. And that's the whole NRA's, in a nutshell, reason for existence originally. The Washington Post fact checker argued Biden's claim is demonstrably false. Everything in that statement is wrong, David Koppel, research director for the Second Amendment project director at the Independence Institute, told the publication, adding that after the Second Amendment was ratified in 1791, there was no federal laws about the type of gun you could own, and no states limited the kind of gun you could own. This was not the first time Biden has made such a false claim. In an interview with Wired magazine last year, the Democratic defended his proposed gun control policy, saying you weren't allowed to own a cannon during the Revolutionary War as an individual. Some readers might think that this is relatively inconsequential flub, but we disagree, fact checker Glenn Kessel wrote. Every U.S. president has a responsibility to get American history correct. It would be nice, it would be really great if our presidents knew the Constitution. Even if you want to dismantle it. Shit, Barack Obama at least knew the Constitution. Especially when he's using a supposed history lesson in service of a political objective, Kessel continued. The president's push for more gun control restrictions is an important part of his political platform, so he undercuts his cause when he cites faux facts. Biden's false claim was made even worse by the fact that he had been checked on this before. Somebody checked him on it before? We have no idea where he conjured this notion up about ban on a cannon ownership in the early days of the Republic, but he needs to stop making this claim, he wrote. He won't. You know why he won't? Because most of his supporters don't give a fuck to find that out. Nobody who gives a shit, he's talking to his base. Nobody who gives a shit about the Second Amendment is going to vote for anything like that. So the only people that he's riling up are the left or the uneducated gun owner who just bought his first pistol last year. The White House tries to pin defund the police on Republicans. What? What? I'm shocked. The White House tried to distance Democrats from the radical defund the police movement this week by claiming Republicans are the ones who really defunded law enforcement by voting against President Biden's sniffle relief package earlier this year. Cedric Richmond, one of Biden's top advisors, first made this allegation during a press conference about gun violence in the U.S. Let's talk about who defunded the police, he said. When we were in Congress last year trying to pass a rescue plan, it was the Republicans who objected to it. So look, Republicans are very good at staying on talking points of who says defund the police, but the truth is they defunded the police. We funded crime intervention and a whole bunch of other things, Richmond continued. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki defended this allegation during a later press briefing, even after Fox News reporter Peter Doocy pointed out that Biden's America Rescue Plan had nothing to do with stopping a crime wave. Well, the president did mention that the America Rescue Plan, the state and local funding, something that was supposed to be supported by the president, a lot of Democrats who supported and voted for the bill could help ensure local cops were kept on the beat in communities across the country. As you know, it didn't receive a single Republican vote. That funding has been used to keep cops on the beat, she claimed. Hours after Psaki comment, the Democratic-run city of Oakland, California, approved a budget on Monday that diverted nearly $20 million away from its police department and towards other social services. Senator Tim Scott blasted Biden officials for trying to pin the defund the police movement on the Republicans when it's obviously only Democratic cities are actually stripping law enforcement of the resources they need. That's a fact that they don't like, I'm sure. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard all year long, and we've heard some very ridiculous things from Democrats, he said at the White House, of the White House's accusation. The facts are simple, he continued. Seattle, Portland, Los Angeles, Cleveland, and New York, Baltimore have all defunded their police. What we've seen is a 40% increase in violent crime in major cities because Democrats have been defunding the police for the last year. Republicans. But it's only Democrat cities. I don't know. Iowa joins states sending troops and officers to enforce the border. Here's another tick. Another tick on what is going on with the states versus the federal government. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem announced Tuesday that she will join a growing list of Republican governors sending law enforcement officers to the U.S. border to Mexico. Noem's announcement that she will send up to 50 South Dakota National Guard troops to Texas comes as the GOP ramps up a political fight with President Joe Biden over border security. The issue, I think this will probably be one of the main reasons why if anybody does anything. The issue has drawn a host of prominent GOP figures from President Trump. Former President Trump was expected to travel to the border this week, and Republican governors from Florida, Nebraska, and Iowa have all committed to sending law enforcement officers for border security. Did he decide not to go? Former President Trump was expected to travel to the border this week. Texas Governor Greg Abbott this month announced plans to build more barriers along the border. Abbott's new push has been criticized as political theater, but he has defended the plan, saying the number of border crossers remains high. The governor said he will use $250 million in state money in crowdsourced financing for the barriers, although the timeline and the cost for the push are unclear. It also faces potential court challenges from the federal government, as it always would. Large numbers of migrants have shown up the U.S. border with Mexico, many turning themselves over to the U.S. Border Patrol agents and seeking legal asylum status. Encounters with single adults have remained high, with arrests of sex offenders at the border up by 542%. More than 250,000 border crossers have evaded capture so far this year, according to the Border Patrol. 250,000 people. My goodness. A private donation will fund the cost of sending the South Dakota National Guard troops, Noem said. The deployment is expected to last from 30 days to 60 days, while other states involved are sending law enforcement officers for roughly 2-week stints. Noem, who is seen as a potential presidential contender, drew a distinction between her decision to send the National Guard and other governments who are sending state police officers. The border is a national security crisis that requires the kind of sustained response only the National Guard can provide, she said in a statement. We should not be making our own communities less safe by sending our police or highway patrol to fix a long-term problem President Biden's administration seems unable or unwilling to solve. The governor's office did not immediately respond when asked for the identity of the private donor paying for the National Guard deployment. That's a hell. Is it one person? If that's one person paying for that, my goodness, that's all. Meanwhile, the South Dakota Democratic Party slammed the governor's use of National Guard troops, tweeting, "Politicizing the military is a line that should never be crossed. Kristi Noem is using our National Guard for her personal benefit." Yeah. South Dakota, man. Or is it South Carolina? South Dakota. South Dakota. I like South Dakota. I like the people there. I think they got good politicians in place right now, but they're going to be trying to change that. You can guarantee it. They're really pushing on flipping states. Hey, my brother just left to go home. All right. How you doing, Gerald? I'm glad you're here. How's the wife? How's your garden? Excuse me. 1 second. What's up, Broken Patriot? How you doing? I didn't even know you left. But thank you for being back. Appreciate it. We just read a few interesting ones. Did you know that it was the Republicans who defunded the police, not the Democrats? Will infrastructure spending collapse the U.S. dollar? I don't know. There's a lot of stuff on that. Oh, at your daughter's? Nice. Recent collapses of bridges and a Florida condo building highlight what can go wrong when basic structural and foundational elements are neglected and allowed to deteriorate. Did we ever figure out what happened to that? Was it a sinkhole? Shit. Florida condo. Let me look that up. Copy. Yeah, let's find a news story on this one. I'm kind of 12 hours ago. Okay, here we go. Death toll grows to 12 as rescuers forge ahead at the collapse of Surfside condo. No, I don't want that. You know what? Screw you. I don't want to watch it then. CNN, death toll rises to 12. Renowned structural engineer says multiple factors may have contributed. Okay, let's watch this one. Feel very comfortable that we are able to figure out. Oh, you son of a crap. Okay. Not an individual case, but 2 or 3 things that contributed and or caused this failure. Aline Kalishmer, who investigated other disasters such as Oklahoma City and in 95 and the World Trade Center bombing in 93, yada yada. What we're looking for is the trigger that caused the building to collapse and then see how the things that might not have been perfect could have contributed to it. So they don't know what happened? I feel very comfortable we'll be able to figure out maybe not they don't know. What we're looking for. 2 months before the 12-story Chaplain Tower South condominium tower collapsed, the condo's president sent a letter to residents warning them about structural issues. She pointed out concrete deterioration in the building's parking garage and elsewhere was accelerating and that the damage had gotten significantly worse. Since an inspection 3 years ago, that in that 2018 inspection, the engineer found cracked column beams and walls in parking garage and major structural damage under the pool. As of Tuesday evening, 12 people are confirmed dead and 149 others remain unaccounted for. Well, that's 149 people dead. Klishmer told host Shepard Smith that he still doesn't have a working theory on what caused the collapse. Bottom line is, in this situation like this, there is an extensive number of things that you have to consider, and it takes a very long time to get that information. Yada yada. So they don't know. How bad I was off? Oh, something wrong with her car. Wife called him this morning on her way to work. Her car overheated, so he came over and took me in to pick her up the car. Hate car trouble. Don't know if I put 2 quarts of water in the fill it back up and drove it home. It was fine. Well, I'm glad you got it home. Let's see. America's deteriorating infrastructure is badly in need of fixing. On that issue, there's a wide bipartisan agreement. On Monday, President Biden touted a $1 trillion infrastructure deal moving forward in Congress with support among some key Republicans and Democrats. You know, I would like if we're going to spend $1 trillion, I would like 100% of that to go to fixing our roads and bridges. The problem is, it's probably a fraction of that. It's a rare glimmer of bipartisanship in a starkly divided Washington, but bipartisanship doesn't imply fiscal responsibility. Whenever Republicans and Democrats get together and agree on something, you can bet it will entail more spending and therefore more debt. Whatever the merits of infrastructure spending, and many politicians have an expansive view on what constitutes infrastructure, it won't be offset by cuts in less essential government expenditures. Instead, lawmakers are proposing tax hikes and more aggressive IRS enforcement actions aimed at bringing home more revenues. So you're going to go to jail faster if you don't pay your taxes. And that building in Florida, I'm pretty sure that was privately owned. That's not I don't think it's a government building. It's a condo. I doubt a condo is a government-owned building. That's a lawsuit big time with the people who own that property. They're responsible for every one of those people that died, in my opinion, and it should be brought up on charges. What exactly? I'm not sure. Negligent manslaughter, negligent homicide. I don't know. One of those two. At the end of the day, however, a bulk of any new infrastructure spending will likely be paid through borrowing. New currency units will be conjured up and pumped into things like concrete and steel. With building materials and construction costs already surging this year, the government's stoking of additional demand will only make the problem worse. A larger inflation problem is brewing. It's not about supply bottlenecks or surging demand in particular areas. Though these phenomena are typically the focus of inflation stories in the mainstream media. What underlines all the recent and likely future price spikes is currency depreciation that is being carried out systematically by the Federal Reserve at the behest of Congress. The Fed aims to engineer an inflation rate that averages 2% over time, according to the central banker logic. Deliberately pushing inflation above 2% is now warranted because of the past undershoots. Inflation is running hotter than the Fed expected. Not to worry because it's transitionary, Fed Chairman Jerome Powell insisted. But what if confidence in the U.S. dollar is more permanently broken? Could cracks in the foundation of the world's reserve currency lead to an all of a sudden and precipice collapse in its value? I think it might be the water pump. Couldn't hear it. Making noise the other day. Probably the pump. Yeah, Broken Patriot's a car guy. I didn't even know you could hear the water pump, to be honest. What noise does that make? The water pump goes. A dollar collapse scenario is certainly possible, but it may play out over many years or even decades rather all in once. The result would still be catastrophic for holders of the U.S. dollar and bonds. Instead of a dramatic default or devaluation announcement, purchasing power losses would accumulate steadily and relentlessly, perhaps finally accelerating into a crescendo of hyperinflation. It's how many governments throughout history have dealt with unstable debts. I think the unsustainable just means that the debt is growing faster than the economy. That's been the case for a long time, Powell said in a testimony before Congress last week. I have no question that the U.S. government will be able to pay its bills for the foreseeable future, he added. It's also true, though, that we are on an unsustainable path. If federal finances are unsustainable, then how can Powell be so confident that the government will have no problem paying its bills? An individual or business, well, first of all, you don't want to ensue panic because then everybody's going to take their dollars and go get something that's actually worth something. And as I've told you, anytime you can buy silver or gold, I would definitely do it. I have had to get out of my gold just because, that was our savings, but I will be getting back into it as soon as I can. An individual or a business on an unsustainable path would eventually get cut off by creditors and go broke. Uncle Sam enjoys the privilege of unlimited credit line with the Federal Reserve. As he continues to abuse that privilege, currencies will tightly limit supplies and zero counterparty risk. Gold and silver stand to gain in comparison to fiat Federal Reserve note profusions. Precious metals are infrastructure, and monetary infrastructure that instills confidence and stands the test of time. But you can't spend your gold to get a loaf of bread. Well, you know how much gold it would take to buy a loaf of bread? Not very much. Second of all, I bet you I could buy a loaf of bread with gold if I needed to. That's the great thing about gold. People know what it is, and people trust its value. Yeah, it might not be something they can take in the cash register, but the person that I'm giving that gold to will want it. And if I give him a little bit more than what it's worth, or, the bread is worth, he gets a little, I get a little, and he, puts in the money in the till kind of thing. Grind, grind, grind. Is that what it is? The water pump goes grind, grind, grind. That's what I'm thinking. She said it was fine going down the road. It was heating up at red lights. Yeah. Maricopa County here in Arizona is going to replace all their voting machines audited by the state Republicans. Arizona and Maricopa County announced it will replace all the voting machines subpoenaed by the Republican-led Senate after the independent audit of the election of last year has concluded. Last month, the state Democratic Secretary of State Katie Hobbs advised Maricopa County officials to replace its voting machines over concerns the audit has hurt their security and integrity because the chain of custody has been compromised. A lack of physical security and transparency means we cannot be certain who accessed access the voting equipment and what they might have done to them. Hobbs, who was running for governor, said at the time, "Ooh, we might get a new governor. That'd be nice not to have Ducey in office anymore. I wish we could get Janet Brunner back. Janet Brewer was awesome." In response to Maricopa County Attorney Astor Adel agreed and said that the plan is already in place. The voters of Maricopa County can rest assured the county will never use equipment that could pose a risk to free and fair elections. Well, that's good. The county recognizes Secretary Hobbs' authority under that number to certify equipment for the use in Arizona's elections. As a result, the county will not use the subpoenaed equipment in any further elections, the county said in a statement on Monday. Maricopa County noted this potential risk in February when it asked the court for guidance on the Senate subpoenas. The state continued. Since then, the county has implemented backup plans that include acquiring new tabulation equipment for the March and May jurisdictional elections in 2021. The independent audit began earlier this year after the Arizona statement was granted permission by the courts to subpoena Maricopa County ballot voting machines and voting results from last year's election. This last week, the audit came to a close after investigators finished and recounted a recount of 2.1 million ballots cast in Maricopa County. They done? Are they done? Ken Bennett, who's serving as Arizona State Senate liaison for the audit, said he expects the results of the review to be released later this summer. They're done. Oh, I can't wait for this. I hope it's actually legitimate. I hope everything happened the way they said it had happened. I hope they're, it's all above board. It'd be nice. I don't mind being wrong if I'm wrong. I still have a problem with people covering up windows. I still have a problem with ballots coming out from under tables. I still have a problem with windows being covered up. But I don't know. Will we ever find out? I mean, we haven't found out what actually happened on 9/11, in my opinion, so. And I have no idea what actually happened there, but I know something more than what they're saying. Because never in world history has a steel building come down because of fire, any kind of fire. Unless there was a bomb in it. But just burning, it shouldn't have come down, in my opinion. The Wuhan lab hides source of the sniffles that look just like the ones that caused the sniffles 19. In 2013, Chinese virologist researchers isolated a SARS-like sniffle that is now the closest relative to the sniffle 19 virus that we know. Since then, Chinese scientists, with the help from the government, have made it difficult for research to discover anything about the sniffle sample and the origins of the sniffle 19. Taking samples from a remote mine where 6 workers had previously become ill with the SARS-type disease that bore many of the same markings as the sniffles 19, virologists found a needle in the haystack in 2013, said Epoch Times. It was just one of the 16,000 bats that were sampled. It was a fecal sample. We put it in a tube, put it in liquid nitrogen, took it back to the lab. We sequenced it, a short fragment. Peter Daszak, the president of Eco Health Alliance, told the Sunday Times last year. Danzig is better known as the scientist who facilitated the U.S. government grant to fund the bat research at the Wuhan lab, which is suspected the site where it all originated from. Since the discovery in 2013, Chinese researchers have obfuscated the sniffles by changing its name from RABTCOV/4991 to that RATG13. Just as the sniffles began to emerge worldwide in February of 2020. The revelation comes as the discovery that a U.S. government database previously deleted genetic sequencing information about the sniffle 19 at the request of China's researchers in May last year. The Wall Street Journal and other publications have attempted to send reporters to the location of the mine where the original sample was collected, but the area has been sealed off by their government. A journal reporter reached the mine by mountain bike, but he was later detained and questioned for about 5 hours by police. Wow. It's like Area 51 now. There ain't no way you're getting in there. Who deleted a cell phone photograph of the mine. Ooh. So the police deleted a cell phone photograph of the mine. Villagers told the reporter that local officials have warned them not to discuss that mine with outsiders. The central figure in the drama is Shi Xing Li, the director of the Wuhan Institute of Virology, who in 2007 showed how viruses, could be manipulated to infect and attack human cells using an HIV-based pseudo sniffle. This experiment, funded by the Chinese Academy of Sciences, was the first indication that Shi Wun Laboratory was acquiring the technologies and skills required to manipulate sniffle collected in the wild, according to Epoch Times. She was also present at the mine when the close relative to the Sniffle 19 stuff was collected in 2013. Shea dismissed the discrepancies. So I'm guessing that's them doing their thing. This is no longer a question of science, she said on the phone to the New York Times. It's a speculation rooted in distrust. The information is adding to pressures for governments around the world to begin a serious investigation into the origins of the Sniffle 19 and adding to the criticism for those who wonder why it's taken so long to begin in earnest. Boy, China's not going to like this. Can you imagine? We have what, 600,000 deaths in America now from the sniffles? That's 600 lawsuits, or 600,000 lawsuits. I mean, that's countries suing or going after China. Multiple countries saying, hey, this is your fault. We want our money back. You caused our economies to go under. We're taking it out of your ass. So, yeah, I doubt China wants that. A World Health Organization team investigated the Wuhan lab informally earlier this year, but it was under investigation. It was an investigation that lacked depth. The team, which spent 3 hours at the Institute, said the Wall Street Journal had little to go on beyond assurances from the Institute's own staff, team members say. On the same day the report was released, Dr. Tito Rose said the team hadn't adequately explored a potential lab origin. This reminds me of Chernobyl and the Russians' cover-up of it quite a bit. We're going to talk a little bit about the Olympics. As I said, why are they not allowing trans people in the Olympics? They're not only not allowing it, but they're not talking about it. And I think we should demand them talk about it. If they're so concerned, if California is so concerned about state travel to states that don't support trans people, then they should also not send any athletes to the Olympics because there are no trans people in the Olympics. Olympian who turned back on flag during the anthem faces blowback. Hey, big surprise. Big surprise. Self-described activist, athlete, and Olympian Gwen Berry, who turned her back on the American flag during the national anthem at the Olympic trials over the weekend, said on Sunday that Americans frustrated with their ungrateful attitude put patriotism over basic morality. The American people's reaction also taught Berry that the commercial statements and the phony sentiments regarding Black lives following George Floyd's death were just a H-word. Republicans pounced on her unpatriotic attitude. Dude, you're representing your country in the Olympics. You know how many people would love to do that? And yeah, it's kind of a spit in the face. If you don't like it here, go to Canada or some other country and join the Olympics through their country. I don't think it takes that long. Because we have people in America that aren't from America that play for the American team. So whatever country that is more accepting of, you and your people, by all means, join that one and be patriotic to that country. You know what I mean? Representative Dan Crenshaw of Texas said she should not represent the Olympic team if she cannot stand respectfully while the national anthem plays. Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas agreed with Crenshaw. If Miss Berry is so embarrassed by America, then there is no reason she needs to compete for our country, he said on Fox. She should be removed from the Olympic team. Senator Cruz from Texas asked, why does the left hate America? Well, because they're trying to reimagine America. In order to do that, everything in America is wrong. How do you change a democratic republic to Marxism socialist or communist? You got to tear it down. That's why even Abraham Lincoln is no longer a good guy. Oh, yeah, he freed the slaves, sure, but he also called them a lower class of human. So he needs to be canceled. Berry denied the allegations in a tweet that ended with the phrase, I love my people, and I raised black fist, a symbol of black supremacy ideology. I doubt she said that part. I love my people and a raised black fist. Okay. Berry finished in third place at the U.S. Olympic trials for the women's hammer throw and then proceeded to draw attention to herself and away from the event's winner and runner-up. Maybe is that why? She turned away from the flag, put on a sulky face, and draped her head with a black t-shirt that read, Activist Athlete. Berry claimed that national anthem was played as a part of a setup. They did it on purpose. So yeah, they usually do that when you're on the podium. I know that. Berry told the Associated Press, I was pissed, to be honest. They said they were going to play it before we walked out. Then they played it when we were out there, she said. Oh, so she wanted to come out. But I don't really want to talk about the anthem because that's not important. The anthem doesn't speak for me. It never has. The U.S. track and field spokeswoman Susan Hazard said the national anthem plays according to a pre-published schedule and was set to play at 5:20 p.m. on Saturday. We didn't wait until athletes were on the podium for the hammer throw awards, Hazard said. Former Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker, a Republican, he's no longer governor, pined for earlier years when national anthem united Americans. The last time I saw true patriotism was shortly after 9/11. Everybody was ready, waving an American flag, and it was America strong, and we weren't going to let the terrorists win, and we were going to live our life. We were going to be free. We were going to be even more free, just to show them how you're not going to affect us. And then we did the Patriot Act. What is wrong with people? He wrote. Growing up, everyone stood for the American flag. Didn't matter your politics, race, sex, income, religion. Everyone stood for the flag. It was one of those civic rituals that brought us together. It should still today. I agree. It would be nice if it did, but it don't. It don't. Now Brenda is saying that this is the reason I should have a phone. LOL. I said, why would I need my brother to give me a ride anyways? Someone had to drive her car home. Stepdaughter works with her mom. Anyways, wife called her to catch a ride to work. She was like 4 cars ahead of the wife. What's up, Stefan? How you doing? Hey, the next conqueror will find only gays in New York. Don't worry. That's all right, good. I'm going to do a quick search before I get off of this page. Let's see. All right. Oh, maybe there is. When is this at? June 21st. Maybe I'm wrong. Laurel Hubbard, first transgendered athlete. Nope, don't want to do that. To compete at the U.S. Olympics. Well, I was wrong. New Zealand's Laurel Hubbard has become the first ever transgendered athlete to pick to compete at the Olympics in a controversial decision. Officials have selected her for the women's weightlifting team for Tokyo 2020. After qualifying requirements were recently modified. She had competed in men's events before coming out as a trans in 2013. Critics say Hubbard has an unfair advantage, yada yada. I am grateful and humbled by the kindness and the support that has been given to me by so many New Zealanders, Hubbard said in the statement issued by the New Zealand Olympic Committee on Monday. She will compete in the women's 87-kilogram weightlifting category. The 43-year-old became eligible to compete at the Olympics when the International Olympic Committee in 2015 changed its rules allowing transgendered athletes to compete as a woman if their testosterone levels are below a certain threshold. Oh, okay. Testosterone is a hormone. Yeah, I know what testosterone is thinking. While athletes' testosterone levels are below that threshold, critics say her participation in the Olympics is still unfair for the female-born athletes. How long has her hormones been that low, you know? Because you can get a lot of mass before that. Maybe, I'm not a doctor. They have pointed to the biological advantage of those who've gone through puberty as males, such as increased bone and muscle density. Last month, Belgian weightlifter Anne who is competing in the same category, said that if Hubbard were to compete in Tokyo, it would be unfair for women and like a bad joke. She said that while she still fully supports the transgender community, the principle of inclusion should not be at the expense of others. Anyone that has trained So, okay. There's one. She looks like an actor. I forget the actor. The you know the guy that did the Alice in Wonderland, Tweedledee and Tweedledum, and his sister is in like a whole bunch of funny movies now, including Ghostbusters. Shit, I don't remember. I'm bad with names. All right, so yeah, they're allowing transgenders in the Olympics. I'm surprised. All right, cool. Learn something every day. I'm surprised. You would think that a lot of countries would be upset about that. You know what I mean? But I'm glad we're at a point in America, or not American, a point in world history where it doesn't matter. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys tonight. Thank you so much for being here. Not a huge crowd, but it's all right. It's my core group, my besties. Gerald B rarely misses one. Broken Patriot is most of the time here unless he's on the road. So you two are amazing. Thank you very much. Stefan, thank you very much for being here. Riddle here as always. Always appreciate it. Make sure that if you're a believer in God, to be praying for OMG. Because he showed up yesterday, said he'd been in a coma, or at least unconscious, for over a month, possibly a couple months. He had a bad motorcycle accident and showed us his scars. So we're definitely keeping him in our thoughts and prayers. And also, Mr. Tommy Boy 9, I haven't heard back from him yet at all. So thoughts and prayers to Tommy Boy 9, thoughts and prayers to OMG. Those are the people that I know of. If you got any others, let me know in chat while I do my little closing. Well, this is the end of the show. I will be back tomorrow at the same time. As always, 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 Central, 9 Eastern, I believe. It's up there. Yeah, I got it right. If you not follow me on my other social medias, please do so. At least follow me on poisonstinger 2 on YouTube, DLive, and Twitter and Discord. Those are the main ones. Yes, I'm on Gab. Yes, I'm on Rumble, but I'm not really posting on them. I probably will put some of my cooking videos over there on those as well, as well as on YouTube. But definitely check out my links for all my social medias. The Discord's a really good one. You all should be part of that. If you're not a part of that, you should really consider it because it's an amazing place, and we can get a lot accomplished there. Other than that, all the ways you can support the channel financially if you want to. Now, do know that if you decide to support this channel financially, 50% of that is going to go to my favorite charity, which is Rally Point Irish. My good friend Irish USMC vet is starting up a location in Tennessee where people can come and stay room and board free while learning a new life skill like farming, blacksmithing, and gunsmithing. It's mostly for veterans, but he said I can do it too, and I'm not a vet, so I guess for special circumstances, right? But however, before donating to this channel, I would definitely encourage you to maybe consider just donating 100% straight over to him, because I know he would like to see that goal get accomplished, and I know I would as well. He's got a long way to go. So far, last time I checked, I was the only person who was donating. However, we had somebody here last night, I think it was Anonymous American, who said that he was going to go donate. So I don't know if he did it yet or not. But yeah, I definitely want to get that out there. Also, the GOA is a good organization, not a great organization, but a good organization trying to get some of your gun rights back. There's a lot of attacks going on right now with your gun rights. Something's going to come out of it, at least universal background checks, in my opinion. But yeah, definitely be aware of that. Other ones is the pH association. That's one that's near to my heart, because that's the condition that I'm going to die of, unless I die some other way. There's no cure for it yet, but we're hoping that they will find one before I need it. At least they've come up with medications that prolong your life, so that's a good thing. Other than that, I think that's it. So make sure to keep your family close. Watch out for that government. Keep everybody in your thoughts and prayers, and I will see you tomorrow. Peace.